Good afternoon, students. Let us start with the third module, that is international workforce planning and staffing. Okay, international labor market. I hope my voice is audible to you all. My voice is audible to you all. Sia, Sia Parab, please unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am. You're
Okay,
audible.
okay. Screen is being seen. PPTs are being seen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
great. Fine. So here yesterday we had seen the labor market, right? The international labor market. So here the global aspects of labor market, which refers to the world and all that contributes within that measures, also known as globalization. Okay. So in this particular process, we had seen that a lot of cultural dimensions are there, right? A lot of political systems, taxation systems. Okay. Then afterwards, economies of scale and all those things, right? Uh, so moving on to international recruitment function, right? We had seen yesterday that it has to work with the globally coordinated systems. So when it comes to recruitment function, domestic recruitment function, it is within the country. When it comes to international recruitment functions, you have to see, you have to coordinate with various systems across the globe, right? And practitioners will look for source talent from increasingly varied places around the world. So you're going to source the talent, competent people across the world, right? Across the globe, and you're going to put forth the diverse workforce to get the maximum benefit to the organization. Okay. I hope someone is waiting to join. Okay. Right. So here, my dear students, when we speak about international workforce planning or international labor market, so global aspect of labor market refers to the world and all that contributes within this measures, which is also known as globalization. Which is a globalization again is a process of integrating regions through societies, political systems, economies, and cultures to share ideas between the countries. So culturally, this is beneficial because we are learning from various countries and bridging the gap between the countries. All around, globalization becomes a positive action because we can learn from each other and better our countries with others' ideas, and in turn work for the good of the whole world. So international labor standards refer to convenient conventions agreed upon by international actors, resulting from series of value judgments set forth to protect basic workers' rights, enhance workers' job security, and improve the terms and conditions of the employment across the global scale. So the intent of such labor standards, that is international labor standards, is to enhance basically the job security of the workers, to put forth better terms of employment on a global scale. Okay. And also establish a worldwide minimum level of protection for inhuman labor practices through adoption and implementation of said measures. So further theoretical standpoint, it has been maintained on ethical grounds that there are certain basic human rights that are universal to humankind. Thus, it is the aim of international labor standard to ensure the provision of such rights that are universal to humankind. So basically, if you could see, there are a lot of problems which happen when it comes to international labor, international recruitment, right? So there are a lot of workplace aggressions, bullying, discrimination, gender inequality, okay, and too much of workplace democracy and empowerment and all those things. So to curb all these negative things which do happen in international recruitment, international labor standards are being put forth by the international labor committees, right? So basically, on this, the global workforce basically refers to international labor pool of workers, including those employed by multinational companies and connected through a global system of networking and production. Immigrant workers, migrant workers, telecommuting workers, those in export-oriented employment, contingent workers, and other precarious employment. These are the various global workforce which are being referred to, right? So basically, I've already spoken about international recruitment function yesterday, right? So here, advantages of international recruitment, my dear students, the major advantages. you can go beyond the wider applicant pool. Okay, so here you have a wide applicant pool wherein you can source the best talent across the globe, and hiring outside your own country can often be a cost efficient, as the pay rate of the other countries is at times substantially less than in the ones which you own your own business, right? So basically cost effectiveness is there. And then by allowing employees to work from their own locations, certain companies do allow working from remote locations, right, from their own locations. So there are also a decreased need for office space and supplies, which can be great method of cost reduction. Okay, and then another advantage of international recruitment is evaluating the estimated tax cost of international employees who work in their home region. So some of the countries do give tax advantage also to the companies when it goes to international recruitment, right? Now moving on to sources of international recruitment. Yesterday we had seen one source, that is headhunters. So here we have internal sources as well as external sources. Internal sources are promotion and transfer, whereas external sources are headhunters, cross-national advertisement, that is e-recruitment, and international graduate programs. So when we speak about the internal recruitment, right? So basically, when we speak about the internal recruitment, so here internal sources are recruiting from existing employees. It is very beneficial because those employees know about the products and services provided by the organization and are committed to the organization. So it also gives an advantage of having an opportunity for international placement, can also be motivating to the employees and can be a part of their development. So when you give international opportunities, placement opportunities to your employees who are already working in your organization, it motivates them, and also it gives a better exposure to them. And it is also being considered cost associate with overseas placements that might make internal promotions less attractive. So benefit of internal promotion have to be balanced against the recruitment of new employees, which can result in fresh ideas and knowledge being added to the organization. So basically, if you could see, internal recruitment is also beneficial at one part, whereas external recruitment also is beneficial at one part. So when we speak about external recruitment, so here it speaks about the headhunters. Okay, so basically the headhunters are the recruiting. It is being used for recruitment of top management executives who are highly skilled and resourceful, and who contribute to the organization's lead to success, or these employees are competitive advantage to the organization. So basically, when we speak about the headhunters, um, these are not necessarily HR human resource jobs, but that of corporate recruiters, right? So often referred to as headhunters, corporate recruiters pick up job orders from HR managers of most organizations to help them fill in need of the hiring department. This helps HR staff in getting a person to hire much more quickly. The corporate recruiter will place advertisement for the job, okay, opening, perform a preliminary interview, and choose the good candidate which matches the job profile. This saves HR department a lot of time and effort when trying to locate the right person. Okay, so that is a major advantage of headhunters. So, example of headhunters, the employees who are competitive advantage of the some companies is offered a fancy designation and higher salary package, and is made to join the company. That is, that this process is basically called as headhunting. So, you're basically going to hunt the right head from the competitors and then pull them out in your organization by paying a better package and better compensation, right? And then you have cross national advertisement. So cross national advertisement is advertising for international positions in different nations and international dailies, so as to fill the vacancies and positions in different parts of the subsidiary countries. Okay, so cross national advertisement, world is a global village, and as a part of globalization, labor migration is more common and accepted all over the world, right? So at present, many companies seek to carry out cross border when they recruit the senior staff, basically. Okay, so the rising applications of advertisements, such as targeting outdoor poster sites, Okay, targeting outdoor poster sites, right? So airport launches, airline magazines, journey of work routes, simultaneously international publications like Economist magazine, Wall Street Journal. Okay, these are the various sources where the recruitment advertisements are being put forth for higher level posts in many organizations all over the world. Although the advertisement should consider cultural differences, it may well be the case that the valuable targeting of such advertisements ensures that they are um, seen more or less totally by people. They are more used to and accepted and are and of accepted of, and these multicultural messages are being put forth. So for example, here Japanese government sponsored initiative to promote global jinsai management, right? So here similarly it is being called as global human resource or human asset management for the purpose of training, habituating, assigning and recruiting both domestic and foreign talent to, for and from overseas market, right? And then next we have a part of cross national advertisement, that is e-recruitment. It is nothing but using of technology or the website based tools to assist the recruitment process. So the tools can be either a job website like naukri.com or monster.com, etc. The organization's corporate its own website or its own intranet. So companies advertise job vacancies through World Wide Web. Job seekers place their CVs in the World Wide Web, which can be drawn by prospective employees depending upon their recruitment. So basically, this is a process of personal recruitment using electronic resources, in particular the internet companies, okay, and recruitment agents, having moved much of their recruitment processes online so as to improve the speed by which candidates can be matched with live vacancies. So, using database technologies and online advertisement boards and search engines, employees fill the post in a fraction of time previously possible. So, using an online e recruitment system may potentially save employer time. As usual, they can rate the candidates, and several persons in HR independently review the candidates. Okay. So basically, this is what we could say about e-recruitment. It saves time, okay, it saves cost, as well as at the similar time, the resume can be seen by various people in the organization who are going to recruit. Okay, so that is what is about e-recruitment, right? So to speak about certain things here, World Foreign Employment Agency, right? GRA, okay, Global Recruiting Agency is registered. It is one known as one of the world's foreign employment agency. It is being registered and approved by the Ministry of Expatriates Welfare and Overseas Employment for locals, nationals, and international recruitments for employers in the potential countries around the world. Apart from that, the biggest recruitment agency in the world is known as Adecco Group. Okay, Adecco Group is the world's leading recruitment agency. They provide more than 7 lakh people with permanent and temporary contract employment every day. With more than 33,000 people in 60 countries, their aim is to transform the world of work one job at a time. Okay, right? And then you have the next one, employment websites. So list of best employment websites and staffing agencies for your knowledge. I've put both here. So here Kelly Services, which is in Michigan, US. Adico, okay, Adico you find in all the countries, right? Career One Stop, Elite Staffing, Q Staffing, Pride Staff, Pro Logistic, People Ready, Manpower, Randstad, which is being found in many countries, Allegis Group. Okay, so these are the various best employment staffing agencies when it comes to international recruitment. Now, moving on to international staffing choice. So, one of the major decisions the HR has to make when it comes to deciding to operate overseas is how to staff the people. Okay, what can be the staffing choice to the people. So types of staffing choice, there are three main staffing strategies a company can use the employees from the home country, okay, to live and work in the country from an entirely different country from home country and the host country. So to make it very clear, I put forth here, these individuals are being called as expatriates, right? That is the first choice which is being made. Okay, so here what you can do is you can put forth employees from the home country to live and work in other country. It may be in the host country, or you can also choose people from different country, from home country and host country. Okay, so from host country they can come to home country, from home country they can go to host country, from third country they can go to home country or host country. So if that is being called as, they are being called as expatriates. So second staffing strategy is host country national strategy. Okay, which means employ people who were born in the country in which the business is operating. So you are going to recruit only the people who are there from the host country, who are born in that particular country where the business is operating. So you will not go recruit the parent country nationals or third country nationals. Finally, a third country national strategy, which means employ people. Okay, advantages and disadvantages of these three staffing strategies. List of advantages for each staffing strategy will be put forth now. Okay, so here first is either you can recruit the parent country national, third country national, or host country national. Okay, and then second staffing strategy is you have to recruit only the host country nationals. Third strategy is you are going to recruit only the other country, that is third country nationals. Okay, so here whichever strategy is chosen, communication with home office and strategic alignment with the overseas operation need to occur for a successful venture. So communication with the home country is very, very important. Now moving down to the different approaches to multinational staffing, that is multinational staffing decisions. Okay, fine. So here you have ethnocentric approach, polycentric approach, geocentric approach, and regiocentric approach. This question is being asked many times in the examination, students. Please note different approaches to multinational staffing decisions, right? So when we speak about ethnocentric, okay, so here ethnocentric is when a company follows a strategy of choosing only from the citizens of the parent country to work in host nations. It is also called as ethnocentric. So recruitment process in this method involves four stages, that is self-selection, creating a candidate pool, technical skill assessment, and making a mutual decision. So here an example is being given. The US parent company places the natives from the United States in key position both in United States and in Mexico. So this is a Mexico subsidiary. This is the headquarters, that is US. So here the parent company, on key positions you have US nationals, and in Mexican subsidiary also on key positions you have US nationals. That is ethnocentric approach. Okay. So yeah, students, any doubts? Okay, so this is common for firms whenever the firm has started newly. Okay, when it is an early stage of internationalization, you can go for ethnocentric approach. So here need to maintain good communication, coordination, and control. It links with corporate headquarters. So these three things are important here. Good communication between the headquarters and the subsidiary. Okay, coordination and control. Okay, links with the headquarters is very much necessary. Disadvantage of it is limit promotional opportunities to host country nationals and may lead to lower productivity, higher labor turnover, loss of competent people. When people from other country come and rule the local people, probably they will not like it. So lower productivity will be very low. There will be a lot of differences, language differences, cultural differences, and all those things. Labor turnover will be very high, and you may lose competent people among the locals. That is a disadvantage. And another disadvantage is parent company nationals may take more time in understanding the local dynamics. Okay, so here if in Mexican subsidiary, if Mexican people are being put forth or are being recruited in key positions, they can understand the cultural diversity there. They can understand the other things which are connected to economy, as government rules and regulations of that particular country or culture of that particular country, and immediately they can adopt to it, and that would be the advantage. But when other country people come and rule there, okay, so probably they'll take some more time to understand the local dynamics, that is understand the symbols, understand the language, understand the working culture of that particular country. Then salary differences, again, parent country nationals will be paid very high when it comes to locals. So that would be again a biggest disadvantage of ethnocentric approach. Okay. Now moving on to next approach of international recruitment, that is polycentric approach is company adopts the strategy of limiting recruitment to nationals of host country, that is local people. It is called as polycentric approach. So primary purpose of handing over the management to the local people is ensure the company understands the local market conditions, political scenarios, cultural and legal requirements. So whatever disadvantages are there of ethnocentric can be covered in polycentric approach. So in this example, Australian parent company uses natives of India to manage operations at the Indian subsidiary. So this is the headquarters, this is a subsidiary. So here Australian parent company on key positions you have Australians, here in Indian subsidiary on key positions you have Indians, right? So natives of Australia manage the home office. So entirely it is being managed by Australians, but it is being executed by Indian people into Indian subsidiary. So that is the major advantage of polycentric approach. So here in polycentric approach, advantages, no language barrier because you have locals on the key positions, easy to understand the local dynamics, then managing local politics and administration will become very easy, and it is less expensive, right? So you're going to pay the salary which is there in India. So disadvantage, basically it is maintaining understanding between corporate and subsidiary management becomes difficult. So you are maintaining maintaining the understanding between the corporate office people and the subsidiary becomes very difficult because of lot of barriers. Okay. And then the other disadvantages, difficult to imbibe original culture of the company. So whatever original culture of the company is there, that cannot be imbibed in the Indian subsidiary here, because Indian people are managing it and they will be looking their that particular company into their own culture, right? Then no opportunity for host country nationals to get exposure and experience outside the country. So here host country nationals are not being sent to Australia, so they do not get any exposure. Okay. And that is a major lack when it comes to polycentric approach. The subsidiaries may not grow well. Okay. And the people in the subsidiary will not get growth and development, wherein a lot of turnover takes place. That is the disadvantage of polycentric approach. Now, when it comes to geocentric approach, okay, now this is the third approach of international recruitment. So here, company adopts the strategy of recruiting the most suitable person for the position available in it, irrespective of their nationalities. It is called as geocentric approach. So here, HR operations are constrained by several factors like political and ethnical factors and government laws. So it is difficult to adapt to this particular approach. Okay. So in this example, UK parent company uses natives of many countries at the company headquarters and the US subsidiary. So this particular UK parent company and US subsidiary, if you see here UK parent company, you have many nationals here, as well as US subsidiary, you have many nationals here. So all the nationals will be holding the key positions, right? So that is the geocentric approach. Okay. So when it comes to advantages, so here main problem part of geocentric approach is it employs the best people in the key positions throughout the organization without considering their nationality. Competency becomes the major plays a major role here. Competency of the individual. Employment policies of different countries are being taken into consideration. Work involves different nationals. Okay, and it is too expensive. Geocentric approach. So compensation needs international benchmarking here. Advantages of a geocentric approach: international core team. You will be having international core team because you will be having competent people on key positions. So your organization will reach the top. Then you have best talent. That is the advantage of the geocentric approach. Okay. So here again the disadvantages are basically uh, a lot of problems happen when it comes to different country nationals working under one roof. Okay, then it becomes very expensive. So operations of multinational companies on the basis of some geographical regions and allows the transfer of employees within a particular group. Okay, so that's what we say about the geocentric. So drawback of it again may produce federalism at regional than the country basis. Okay, a lot of differences may come in, may improve career opportunities at national level, but moves the barrier only at the regional level. So these are the various drawbacks of geocentric approach. Now moving on to next, regiocentric approach, my dear students. Regiocentric approach is companies international business is divided into international geographic regions. The regiocentric approach uses managers from various countries with the geographic regions of the business. So one shortcoming of this regiocentric approach is that managers from region may not understand the view of managers at the headquarters. So here if you could see, US parent company, okay, uses the native of United States at the company headquarters. Okay, so natives of European country are used to manage the Italian subsidiary. Okay, so here one shortcoming of regiocentric approach is the managers from the region may not understand the view of the managers at the headquarters. So if you could see headquarters here, sorry, parent company here, the headquarters, and Italian subsidiary, you have many other people here. So there is a lot of difference of opinion which creates between the headquarters and the other employees who are working in the subsidiary. Okay, then you have because it is being taken as that particular region, around in and around that particular region people are being recruited. That is regiocentric approach. Now moving on to types of international assignments. First type of international assignment is long term temporary assignment. So in long term temporary assignment, typically span may move to 1 to 3 years. Okay, though it is not uncommon for there to be a mechanism to extend them up to 5 years or more. Most companies focus on keeping long term assignments to 5 years maximum as a cost management effort to align with the maximum period of many tax related totalization agreements. So short term temporary assignments, okay, so short term temporary assignments are typically 3 to 12 months in duration. Okay, so here long term and short term. Long term is from 1 to 3 years, and the short term is from 3 to 12 months in duration. Though the limit may vary in industry, with most common variations being 6 months minimum and 18 months maximum. These assignments are typically designed to accomplish a specific task. So they are being sent for a specific task or a specific goal, such as training the local staff in specific skill or gaining technical proficiency from local staff, or to fill a vacancy until a more permanent solution is being put forth. Okay, and then a key element is the fact that employee has not been asked to take an assignment but has requested to do so far for his or her personal or professional reason. So company may wish to provide support for employees during assignments. More companies do, okay, provide this particular support for employees during the entire assignment. Okay, but the benefits level is being reduced. That is one of the problem of long term temporary assignments. Okay, now moving on to next, permanent international transfers. Okay, so when we speak about permanent international transfers, it is sometimes it is being called as one way move or indefinite transfer. So international transfers are akin to domestic relocation with international related elements added. So traditionally international transfers have been used when an employee fills a permanent position in the destination country. So permanent position is filled in the destination country, that time it is being used. That is nothing but called as permanent international transfer. You are transferring an employee permanently to the subsidiary. Okay, apart from that you have commuter assignments. So commuter assignment is nothing but instead of taking a short or long assignment or even an international transfer, employee may commute regularly between their home location and the work site in another country. Because of the need to commute regularly, these assignments are frequently used intra-regionally. Okay, so commutation may be weekly or bi-weekly. That is nothing but commuter's assignment. Then you have developmental assignments. Okay, here developmental assignment addresses strategic need within the company to help employees gain critical skills. They are often used for employee identification as high potential at any point in the career, or they may be specific to early career employees. Then you have the last one, that is assignment in different locations. So assignment in difficult locations. So difficult locations are typically defined by living conditions that are far more challenging than those of employees experience in his or her home location. So housing, living standards, okay, remoteness, transportation options, limited education or medical facilities, and significant cultural differences are all elements that make the assignment type different from others. Okay, so these are various types of international assignments. Okay, now moving on to recruitment challenges, my dear students. When we speak about recruitment challenges, a lot of challenges which are being faced when it comes to international recruitment. Okay, so due to constantly changing global and corporate environment, recruitment teams are often facing the challenges of international placement. Okay, so in current times, certain recruitment issues are being most significantly put forth as challenges here. So first one is retention. So turnover rates continue to rise even up to high of 25% talent shift job from more exciting opportunities. So they now look for more than security and comfort. So most of the employees look for the more than security and comfort. So recruitment teams are already working overtime to fill in vacant positions, and added turnover rates will only add to the complexities. So retention becomes very difficult when it comes to the recruitment process and all those things. So you put forth too much of cost on the employee and you recruit, and ultimately when it comes to retention, it fails. Now that is one of the biggest challenge, how to retain the employees, right? Then second one is speed. Okay, when in the business is accelerating and the flight to hire the right talent gets tougher, recruitment functions is now becoming more like the survival of the fittest. So here recruitment team that's fast in all the aspects of hiring will succeed in recruiting top talent. So the fastest recruiting firm will get the best talent. Then position prioritizing, right? That is one of the challenge. So as is the reality of, for most organizations, there will always be limited budget, and there will always be a lag due to pending approvals and management decisions, right? So this will lead business to prioritize positions and recruitment teams to fill the positions with high business impact and return on invest. So how do you prioritize different position? Which position you are going to hire first? How it will be beneficial to the business, and how you are going to get the return ROI on that? That is one of the challenge which is being faced. Then you have workforce planning. That is a challenge. So your business environment becomes more unpredictable and volatile. So workforce forecasting, okay, forecasting of the workforce and planning for the workforce will not be easy as it has been. Okay, data driven forecasting, planning, recruitment, everything is being computerized, which as you have learned in your HR analytics semester. Okay, wherein data driven forecasting is being done. So planning, recruiting strategies will be precedent. So however, currently, such talent and orientation towards workforce planning is scarce and will remain the challenge again. Workforce planning always is a challenge. You cannot predict in the future how many employees leave the organization, how many employees will be there in the organization, whom you have to recruit, what are the changes which may happen in the market. All these are various forecasts which can be done in workforce planning. And when it comes to international, it becomes very challenging. Right, then you have competitors with startups. Okay, so competition here with startups here, high entrepreneurial waves in the corporate world. Numerous startups have cropped up. Top talent would prefer to do something new and exciting. So here, employees or the top talents would always like to join something new and exciting. So therefore, existing organizations may have a stiff competition from these startups. Okay, wherein talent pool which will be dragged by the startups. Okay, you may not get the best talent. So sometimes the best of compensation packages, living conditions, and roles may not excite talent as much as setting up of new business. Okay, so that is one of the challenge which is being faced. And then you have recruitment technology, right? So here, currently all the recruitment technologies that exist is amid at reducing cost, turnaround time, or administrative burden, but there isn't any technology that gives one competitive edge. So which technology are going to identify to hire the best talent? that becomes a challenge. So this continues to remain a recruitment challenge again. Okay. Moving on to the trends of recruitment, my dear students, international recruitment. So here, some impactful trends that will continue to be important for the new next few years is mobile platform, wherein the ability of the candidate to currently make instant applications to the job from mobile phones while become mainstream. Then recruitment focused mobile phone apps will gain importance. This will enable talent sourcing to become faster. Then you have video interviews with with diminishing geographical boundaries and organizational pressed for time. The live video interview will continue to gain importance. So in the past few years, this technique has gained acceptance and will continue to do so in the next few years for at least for the initial interview stage, right? And then you have the next one, that is online candidate assessment. So here there are a lot of assessment tools which are provided, okay, which prove to be very cheaper and equally effective. They continue to become mainstream tools for recruitment, like MBTI, Big Five, and all those things. So they prove to be effective because they reduce unnecessary interviews and can improve the quality of hire as well, right? Then you have remote working. Growth of technology and also the willingness of managers to accept talent working remotely has increased the availability of talent pool and also opened the opportunities to find talent irrespective of their location. So right now, if you could see, it is remote working, wherein you are sitting in one particular country and working for the other country. Okay, so because of this corona and all those things, so remote working has gained its importance. Then accelerated internal movement, where it has become increasingly important to move existing employees to areas of higher impact. So internal movements also give higher comfort to both organization and the employees in terms of cultural fit and performance profitability. So that is the recruitment trend, that is internal movement of the employees. Okay. Now moving down to international selection, my dear students. When we speak about international selection, selection criteria for international jobs usually revolves around five core areas, that is behavior of the employee, attitude of the employee, skills of the employee, motivation, and personality of the employee. Okay, so here more specifically, it looks into cultural adaptability of the employee, how well the employee can adapt to the culture of that particular country. Then how well is the communication skill of that particular employee. Then technical competence of that particular employee is taken into consideration. Then the professional and technical expertise into that particular area where the employee is being recruited, so that expertise is being taken into consideration when they are selecting the employee. Then global experience of the employee is taken into consideration. Then country specific experience, whether already the person has worked in that particular country, that is being taken into consideration, as well as interpersonal skills, language skills, and family flexibility. These are the various specific skills which are being, or specific things which are being focused on when it comes to international selection. So employers around the world usually rank personal interview, technical competency, and work experience in similar job as important criteria for selection. Okay. So here international firms, while choosing employees for overseas operation, usually prefer people with highly developed technical skills. That is the must thing which is required. So technically you need to be sound. Okay. So you need to be very much well versed with the ongoing techniques which are there, technology which is there around the world. Then good language and communication skills. You need to know multiple languages. Okay, you need to know perfect English. That is very much required. And the next part is tolerance towards other cultures, race, creed, color, habits, and values. You need to have impersonal opinion about the culture, race, creed, color, habits, and values. So you need to respect the values and culture, race and creed, color, and habits of the other country people where you are being recruited. High level of motivation. You need to be a self motivator. You need to be very enthusiastic. You need to be very positive. Okay. And stress resistance, very much required. You have to resist the stress which is being provided there when it comes to going in other country, adjusting to the culture. Okay, then afterwards leaving back the family here or taking the family here again, both brings in stress to the employee. So all these stress levels are being looked forth, and how well you resist the stress is being taken into consideration. And then you have goal oriented behavior. You need to be very specific. You need to have goal oriented behavior. Finally, at the time of selection, for the international assignment, an organization considers previous overseas experience, the circumstances of the family of or family environment of that particular candidate, and how well he can adapt to the culture of the organization or a culture of the country that is being looked into. So these are the various international selection things. Okay, to be specific, selection criteria and techniques. First thing which is looked at is technical ability, person's ability to perform the required task for which he is being recruited. Then research has indicated that MNCs give highest importance to technical and managerial skills. So candidates' past performance is checked to understand the technical and managerial skills of the candidate. Then you have cross-cultural suitability, that is ability to operate in new environment, cultural empathy, ability, adaptability, diplomacy, language ability, positive attitude, emotional stability are the important factors when it comes to cross-cultural suitability. Then you have here a Big Five model, and MBTI proves to be a tool which checks the cross-cultural suitability. Then family requirement, it is accepted that the contribution of the family, especially the spouse, makes the success of overseas assignments. Okay, so settlement of family into new home and environment, or leaving the friends, relatives, and social network which is there. Well-being of education of the children is taken care. Accompanying partner's career. Okay, and problems of aging parents. All these things are being looked when you are going to be selected overseas. Okay, family requirement. So if you have well-being of if you have children, right, education of the children is maybe looked in by the domestic company here, or when you're taking the children there or a child is born there, the education facilities are being looked in of the child. When it comes to problem of aging parents, usually if you have aging parents, yeah, they do not recruit you for the overseas. Okay, and then partner's career, you have a competent partner who can make a career there into that particular country. Even option is being given for career opportunities for your spouse, right? And then you have country cultural requirement. Okay, so international firms may have to demonstrate that the host country nationals is not available before the host government will issue the necessary work permit and entry visa for the desired parent country national or third country national. Okay, so expatriate selection may be needed when host country blocks transfers. So some countries may give work permit to expatriates only. Some regions may be considered as hardship postings. Okay, so these are being considered as hardship postings, whereas permission is not being given, or they are being not treated as expatriates, but they are being put forth for temporary purpose, right? So that is what we say country cultural requirements, right? How well the culture of the country accepts the expatriates. Or certain countries do accept, certain countries do not accept them for a longer period of time. Then you have basically when it comes to third country nationals, so expatriate selection may be needed when host country blocks transfers. Some countries may give a work permit to expatriates only. Some countries may consider hardship posting, right? So here MNE requirements. The next selection criteria is MNE requirements. Okay, so when speak about MNE requirements, so when I speak about MNE requirements, my dear students, it is situational factors. Okay, situational factors of multinational enterprises, right? And based on the situationals, they go in for selecting the candidates. Then a proportion of expatriates to local staff. Certain countries will be having certain specifications that of proportion a proportion of local staff to the expatriates and all those things. Then mode of operations. If it is a joint venture, again the things change when it comes to selection criteria, right? Then duration and type of assignment, the amount of knowledge transfer inherited in the expatriate's job in foreign operations, right? And foreign operations language. All these are various MNE requirements which are being taken care of. Okay, then ability to speak the local language, that is also one of the MNE requirement, right? Then important for non-English speaking countries, the jobs where knowledge transfer is critical, you have to know the local language of that particular country. right? All these are various language requirements which are being put forth. So selection criteria includes all this six, right? Then coming on to use of selection test, basically it is used to measure the personal characteristics or traits. Okay, so MBTI and Big Five tests are being conducted. Basically, if you remember your MOB, right? Personal characteristics are being identified there. Then personal traits are being identified accurately, and reliability of that particular individual is being measured by this selection test. Personality and psychological test also proves in better about the personality, speaks about the personality, how well the employee can adjust to the culture of that particular organization. Then tests are valid, okay, for certain duration of time. Then it varies from country to country. Certain countries have different selection criteria, and certain countries look in for certain countries to take MBTI, certain countries to take Big Five, certain countries have their own tests. Okay. Then subjective nature of the test, again it depends on the requirement of the job. Okay, it is subjected to the nature of the test. Then interviews for international selection. Okay, so you have n number of interviews which will be put forth into international selection, right? So here there are two primary types of interviews used by the company, that is screening interview and selection interview. So every company's hiring process is different. Okay, some companies may require only two interviews while other companies may require three or more interviews. So it is also not uncommon to see a company conduct testing, that is personality test, skill based test, aptitude test, as an intermediate step in hiring process. So overall, or overview of the major types of interviews are screening interview, selection interview, round robin interview, panel interview, one-on-one interview, and stress interview. Okay, so here if you could see the first one, that is a screening interview. Okay, so here screening interview, first interview with the company will often be said as screening interview. Purpose of screening interview is ensure that prospective candidates meets the basic qualification for a given position. So it may take place in person or on a telephone. That is called as screening interview. Then you have the next interview, that is selection interview. So selection interview basically are typically conducted on site at the hiring company. The purpose of selection interview is to determine whether the candidate will be selected for the position he or she is being interviewed. At this point, company is trying to decide whether or not should either be moved to the next step in the hiring process, or an offer is going to be extended. So there will be more scrutiny with the screening interview. So screening interview can come in several forms. Okay, like round robin interview or panel interview. Okay, one-to-one interview and all those things. Now, what is this round robin interview? Round robin interview is nothing but it's an interview technique most commonly used by client companies. So here what happens is they will interview with multiple interviewers in succession. So the key to round robin interview is giving good consistent answers. So here you can be successful in round robin interview only when you give good consistent answers. There should not be variations in the answers. Interviewers will typically meet after a discussion, after the interview, and discuss the answers and will uncover an inconsistency. Okay, so they will look into the consistency. Many of the interviewers, multiple interviewers will be interviewing you in succession one by one, and you have to be consistent in your answers. Okay, then panel interview is one of the selection interview. So here panel interview is nothing but interview that consists two or more interviewers. So typically the interviewers will both ask questions. Purpose of panel interview is to gain multiple perspective on the prospective candidate. The key to panel interview is to keep all interviewers involved. Make eye contact with all interviewers answering a question for a specific individual. So one-on-one interview is nothing but interview with a single interviewer. So the key here is one-on-one interview is to build rapport with the interviewer, smile, be friendly, try to match interviewer's energy level. Typically, will have a short period of time to make an impact on the interviewer. Then know the position and key attributes of the company to succeed in this particular interview. Then you have the stress interview. Stress interview is basically designed to test responses in a stressful environment. The interviewer may try to intimidate, and the purpose is to weed out candidates who don't deal with their adversities. The interviewer will make attempts to see how to handle attempt to deliberate attempts to see how to handle one using methods such as sarcasm, argumentative style questioning, or long awkward silence. Okay, so these are the various techniques of stress interview. The key of stress interview is to recognize that all that you are in a stress interview. Don't take it personally. Stay calm, focused, and don't allow to be rushed. So ask for clarification if needed. Know how to push back. Ask the interviewer for a couple of problems they are currently facing, and propose solutions. That is what is the key for stress interview. Okay, students, this much for today. Any doubts, students? Any doubts? Yashaswini?
No, ma'am.
Okay, right. Thank you, students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.